All right, that was a very somber type intro. I'm gonna have to change that. Welcome to Wednesdays Chats with Dads. Welcome to my YouTube channel. This is the actual King Smith. My name is King Smith, and we had a little bit of a change today, if you will, due to some technical difficulties. We're starting a little bit late. And the person who I was going to have come on was not able to come on tonight. Luckily for me, I hit up Dave and asked Dave if he could come on. Dave, I recently just met through a mutual friend. I've gotten to know him, pretty hilarious guy. Our stories are completely different, but nobody's life is the same. I asked Dave if he was willing to come on to my show. He's checked in on some of my past live streams, and he was happy to come on here last minute. So, uh, welcome to the stream, Dave. Dave, what's up, brother?
Hey, thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it.
Hey, dude, I'm just glad that you were able to, come on last minute, man. So I appreciate you taking the time and just chop it up with me about life as a dad.
Absolutely.
Um, so me and you have kind of talked about some things and talked about life. Some of the stuff that we both have in common is that we both served in the military.
Correct.
We both are dads of daughters. And in my opinion, both of our kids look like us, which can be a good thing or a bad thing. Your little kid looks so much like you. It is both scary and hilarious at the same time.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think she's beautiful, but that's just me stroking my own ego. How I will say though, like when you look at your kid, the person that seeing them grow from when they're a baby to even 12 now, seeing how much they've grown and developed. I often tell my daughter, I wish you were a bonsai tree so I could cut your feet off and you'd stop growing and just keep you in that moment because you miss those days, right? When they're
Mhm.
learning to crawl, when they're learning to walk, right? So
Hey, so let me just kind of jump right into it. Was your daughter a planned kid or an oopsie?
that's a good question. So she was not planned at all.
Mhm.
She was definitely a phone call, one day, hey, I'm pregnant. And I was like, okay, well, let's get this shit done, let's do it. Let's make it work. Because her mom and I weren't together at the time. Her
Gotcha.
mom and I were going through a breakup, but we were still hooking up, so um yeah, she called me. She said, hey, listen, I'm pregnant, and we did the best we could during that time frame that we're together. So
All right. And what was your first reaction hearing the news? I'm pregnant.
so I was ecstatic. I mean, I was happy.
Mm. I,
I've
I
always I've
I
always
was the
considered
exact
myself
opposite.
so I've always considered myself a family man. My parents are still together. They've had a wonderful relationship. And so, growing up, seeing how my parents handled their relationship. For example, my mom came to the United States to bring us over here. Actually, left us, back in Guatemala along with dad, and dad had to raise three boys for a good chunk of of her childhood. To then be able to still come to this country and make something of themselves, I admire that, right? And so when I heard that I was going to have a child, I was like, all right, this is great. This is amazing. I definitely want to be part of that. So I was really happy. I was very happy.
All right. Now, you just said something that I wasn't necessarily aware of. Were you born here in the US or born overseas?
No, so I was born in Guatemala, came here when I was 9 years old, 9 or 10, back in the blizzard of '96. I don't know if you recall that blizzard,
Oh, absolutely, man. Because I was even
right?
down south, bro. That blizzard was nasty.
So I was up in New York when that came down. And so I had snow up to like my nose. And I remember like crying and telling my mom, I want to leave. I want to go back to Guatemala. Because it's my first time seeing snow and it's a freaking blizzard, dude. Like what? So
That's got to be trippy.
oh yeah, yeah. I mean, it was a completely different change of environment too. Like when you look at the kind of lifestyle that we had down there, which it was just dad and my two older brothers, to come up to the United States and finally be a family with my mom. But we come to New York where it's just like buildings and a different language and just different everything, right? It was a bit of a culture shock for a 10-year-old.
Now, how long did it take for you to get adjusted to like the whole different cultural lifestyles?
Oh, I'm still trying to adjust. I'm still trying to adjust. As a matter of fact, I had a heart to heart with my mom, and we don't have to touch on this subject if you don't want to, but with all the racism and everything that goes on in this country, I was like, Mom, I kind of wish you wouldn't have brought me here because I've been dealing with racism my entire life, and even in the military. That in my thought process, like all that could have been avoided, right?
Mm.
But then you also got to, as a parent, thinking now as a parent, they did the best they could with the tools that they had. And so, but there was that one moment that I was like, dude, like I wish I wasn't, going into work and dealing with the things that I deal with, or, out in the street, or, and everything that's going on around us, right? Like that's not cool.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, so this show, we are open to talk about anything, man. Like one of the things that I'm trying to do is just have just a regular ass conversation with people, man. And we can touch on anything. There's nothing off limits unless, it's just something that you really don't want to talk about.
Gotcha.
So let's see. Let's go back. Going back to you being a kid yourself, 16, 17, 18-year-old Dave, what was your plan? So you have two older brothers. Do they
Yeah.
have kids yet?
So my oldest brother does have a kid. He's got a 2-year-old daughter, or
Mhm.
th- or 3-year-old. She's adorable. I mean, just as cute as a button. And then my other older brother has a son. So they now have kids, but I'm glad you asked that because it's weird. I'm the youngest one, and I have a 12-year-old daughter, and then my oldest brother has a 3-year-old daughter. So all the things that he's about to experience, I've already experienced, right? So it's switching those roles and being able to have those conversations with your older siblings. It's humbling. It's weird. You know what
Mm.
I mean? But it's like I said, it is humbling to be able to, my brother telling me that about his daughter and her teeth coming out, or that her first tooth fell off, and I was like, oh, dude, I get that, man. The tooth fairy got drunk one day and put 100 instead of a $5 bill. Like we, we've all been there, right?
Oh yeah. So yeah, you know what? See, these are the type of things too that like I think about as well because like I'm the oldest of my siblings,
Mm,
and of my siblings right now, I'm the only that has had a kid. So my mom, for example, both my parents actually, both my mom and my dad,
yeah.
they are grandkids of just one right now. My brother, I don't know if he plans on having kids. Me and him, we kind of talk about it all the time. He'll come on and probably say it is highly unlikely. And I have two younger sisters. One's in her mid 20s, and one who is about to graduate high school, which is insane to me. That she's about to graduate, man. And
Yeah.
oh crap, I need to figure out her graduation information. Wait, is she about to? I'm getting old. You know what? She either is about to graduate or she's about to be a senior. It's one of those things are true. I'm gonna have to figure that out here after
You're
this
gonna
live
have
stream. Mom, sis, if you watch my show, my bad.
Yeah, but you know what? You touch on something that's very important about your brother, knowing not that he doesn't want children,
Mhm.
because I believe that not everyone's cut out to be a parent. It's just a fact. It's like saying everyone can be a leader.
Yes,
There's some
yes.
there's some people out there that should not be in leadership positions. And there's some people out there that are not in leadership positions that would be phenomenal leaders, right? And the
Mhm.
same thing could be said about parents. Like there's some people that become parents and they just shouldn't be parents. And parenting is fatherhood is more of a choice. Right? At one point, you have to sit down and look at yourself and say,
I
I'm
got you.
going to do this.
Mhm.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Say your piece. I know you got
It's just, I have noticed that while fatherhood can be a choice, you have to want to be
right.
a father. You know, everybody can be a dad. It just takes you having sex. Oh, boom, PP, vajayjay, intertwine, bust nuts. Can I say this? I can say this on YouTube. It's my show.
I was going
Whatever.
to say, you went kindergarten cop on me, dude.
and then kids born. But then I've seen sometimes when you have the dynamics of be the parents not being able to communicate and work things out. So the dad goes, it's so much of a headache to try to be around my kids, to try to be a father when, the mom is not making things easy for whatever reason. Now
Right.
I can't speak for the other side, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because I'm a dude and I'm fortunate enough that while me and my ex-wife's marriage didn't work out, we both know that it's important to be parents for our daughter. Does you and your kid's mom, y'all together, not together? What's that a
So
relationship like?
we are, as a matter of fact, after the breakup, it was really rough, right? As any breakup is. I mean, we were together for 11 years, but it was challenging. We both said things that hurt each other, right? And it didn't help anything. But I think lately, we've been able to communicate better, and communication is key, dude. Whenever you're co-parenting with someone, you have to be able to communicate. I am at fault a lot of the times because I'll plan something out with my daughter for the weekend, and then I'll tell my ex, hey, listen, I'm gonna have Isabel. And she's like, dude, you didn't ask me. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm sorry. Is it cool if I get her this weekend? Like, I really want to hang out with her. And she, 99% of the time, she's like, yeah, that's cool. Another example, let's say like Isabel's doing bad in school, she's got a bad grade. I'll reach out to her and say, hey, listen, can you look into this? And she'll be like, you know what? She's going to call you in about 5 minutes. Let's figure this out. But it takes work to get there. We weren't there, overnight. It's over time, and it's just like anything in life. If you put in 50%, you're gonna get 50% back. You put 100% and you get 100% back, right? So, but right now we do have a cordial relationship where I can hang out with her and her husband, and there's no resentment towards anyone, at least not from my side, right? And I think that's key, because when you're looking at your child, like, it's not even about you or her, it's about the kid. It's about making sure that the child has the best possible scenario. And when you start putting them first and you second, you start realizing, like, okay, I do need to work out with this person. I do need to make things, cordial. So,
Man, who you actually just said something that kind of got my brain spinning. I have not had the event yet because I think it's coming. Where, like, for example, let's say my daughter's mom gets into another relationship with somebody, and that person shows up to her high school graduation, for example, in 4 years from now.
mhm.
To have to be there to, be there for my daughter, yet, this other person who, if they're with, her mom has some vested interest in my kid as well. I don't know how I'm going to feel the first time that happened. And I have no problem saying that like out loud to anybody. That's going to be something that I'm really going to have to work through. How did
Oh,
you do it?
a lot of drugs? No. Uh, no. So you look at, like I said, when you start thinking about your child and how they see everything, right? Because you may perceive the situation one way, but they may perceive the situation a different way, right? Like, they see it as a bigger family. Um, you start to put your pride behind, and you start to try to make things work. at one point, I think a couple of years ago, we threw a birthday party for Isabel's my daughter's name for Isabel, and the gentleman showed up, and at this point, it's like, what? They're married, they have two kids. Like, am I gonna sit here and be bitter? That's like me sitting here drinking poison, hoping somebody else dies, right? It's like you might as well accept the fact that this is how it is and make the best of it, right? Well, life's not about the cards that you're dealt, is what you do with them, right? So in this scenario, yeah, like it was rough, dude, because I'm gonna be honest with you, like that's my little gem, and I I never thought about sharing that with anyone except her mom, but it happened, right? And so, like, you got to be an adult about it and swallow your pride. And for example, like whenever we were having the parent teacher meetings, I would sit down after meeting with her teacher and talk to her mom and say, well, what do you think? What should we do? And we'd kind of, start talking back and forth. And then at some point, I'd say, okay, well, that's great. And what do you think? Because he's still a parent. And when it comes to your child, too, like, I never badmouth the guy. I always told her, you are lucky because you have two fathers.
Mhm.
Some kids don't even have one. So you should, it's an extended family, and it does hurt, it does suck, but it's the things that we do for our children to make sure that they're happy.
I could only hope because like I'm strong on certain values, all right? And I could only hope that that person's values, all right? Cuz I can't place my values on that person to say, "Hey, when you're around my daughter, these are the I can't do that. But I can
Yeah,
only hope that that person's values align closely with, like how I'm trying to help mold my daughter.
right.
And that it doesn't scare me, but it makes me a little bit nervous because it's just one of those unknown things that there's really nothing I can do.
It makes it challenging. It makes it really challenging. I'm not gonna lie to you. I mean, this guy has his own way of raising kids. I have my own way, and they're different. That's just a fact, right? But I also need to respect his point of view. If there's something that I truly don't agree with, then yeah, I'll reach out to her mom because that's the other parent, and I'm the other parent for the child, and so we gotta communicate that. And there has been times where I'm like, look, hey, listen, I don't like the way he talked to her. Can you please talk to him and make sure that he doesn't do it again? And every single time that's happened, which hasn't been often, but every single time that's happened, she stepped up to the plate, and so has he. So I have no complaints.
Okay, okay. So Isabel, who named her?
Um, so we're both Disney fans, right? And our favorite movie is Beauty and the Beast.
Okay.
So we wanted her friends, as she grew up, to call her Belle. So we called her Isabel. It's a, I don't think that's how you're supposed to even spell it, but that's how we spelled it. And so that's how she came about, Isabel Nicole. And I don't even know where Nicole came from. We just like, it sounds good, so we put it in there. But yeah, she came from a Disney movie, and 12 years later, nobody calls her Belle. Everybody calls her Izzy or Stinker. I'm like,
How many nicknames does your kid have? We have my nickname for our daughter is the Who. I
the who?
don't know where that came from, right? Because there's the Who band, but we have some, version of Who that we'll call her like Who Leo, Who Munch,
Right.
or just Who, but that's just what me and her mom calls her. How did you get your nickname for Izzy?
Oh, so it just so Izzy just came natural to everyone, right? It's easy to remember. Um, but she's had many nicknames. At one point, when she was like 2 years old, or 1 year, no, I'm sorry, less than 1 year, because I had her talking by 1 year. But right before that, she would just sit there and be like tiki 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 tiki, and she would constantly make that sound. So we started calling her Tiki Tiki. just like random, right? And so now I think her mom will call her Tiki, or she'll call her Izzy. I'll call her Izzy. I'll call her Smelly Butt. Um, I'll call her Stinker because her feet has they've always it's always they she's got stinky feet, man. That's something she's always ever since she was a baby, dude. I was like, damn, man. Wonder where she got that from. Well, me. Uh, but she has had a lot of nicknames. I think Izzy's the one that sticks the most. I call her Babe sometimes. You know, whenever I'm trying to be nurturing, I'm like, yeah, babe, or I love you, babe, and she appreciates that. Yeah.
Were you initially happy about having a daughter, or did you prefer a son?
That, geez, dude, so that's a very good question. I mean, I think every single guy wants to have a son, right?
Yes, yes. Real talk. Absolutely.
But when I found out that she was, I always say this: the best time that her mom and I had together was when she was pregnant. It was a very wonderful and magical time for the both of us, and I was just happy to be a dad, and I was like, yeah, I'll take whatever comes. I mean, I have no choice, right? But I'll take whatever comes. And I remember when when I found out that we are gonna have a girl, I was at a party at my parents' house, and they had a neighbor named John, and he comes up to me, he's like, "Hey, man, I hear you're having a daughter." And I was like, "Yeah, dude, I'm pretty excited. I don't know what to expect, but we're gonna tackle all the challenges as they come." And he's like, yeah, thing about a, he said, the thing about having a boy is that you only have to worry about one penis. When you have a girl, you have to worry about all the penis. And I was like,
Yeah.
you know, get the shotgun ready right now. But I was very excited. I was it was a challenge too, just raising a daughter, right? But I was very excited.
My kid this past weekend asked me a very thought provoking question, and I'm not even sure where it came from. But she asked me, she said, "Hey, how did you feel when you found out that mom was pregnant?" And I told her, upset. And I don't think she was ready for that. We've kind of talked about it in the past, like around, her mom or whatnot, back when I was married. So I think she had an idea, and but she asked me why, right?
Right.
And so for me, before I got married, my ideal time to be a dad, like at least in my head anyway, was after I had been married for 8 to 9 years or whatnot. Lived my life in my 20s, all right, and enjoyed that time in the 20s, and then worked on building a family in my 30s. Obviously, that did not work that way. My ex also did not, I thought she was on board with that plan. Maybe I did not communicate it strong enough to where she understood where I was coming from, because shortly after our marriage, I didn't say shortly like it was real quick, but it was, let's have a baby, stop being selfish. And I'm like, I, no, I was vehemently no about it. So when she found out that she was pregnant, I was coming back from a TDY up a friend's house, and she just placed the home pregnancy test thing out, in front of, some friends, I guess, to have a buffer, for the reaction or whatnot.
Right.
And I just simply said, okay, I'm tired, because I think I just came back from like Korea or someplace. I was like, I'm tired. I'm just gonna go home, take a shower, and sleep. And that's what I did. So I don't know if that's the reaction that she was, looking for or
Right.
whatever. And then later on, we kind of talked about it, and I said, "Well, that's a here's me kind of still in denial. Like that's a home pregnancy test. Let's go to the doctor and do all the stuff then, and
Blood
get that,
test, right? Yeah.
yeah, grab that additional confirmation." And when she got it, I was still kind of like, "Well, shit," you know, because it didn't go according to how I wanted it to go. Um,
But let me ask
and
you the question: out of all the things in your life, how many things actually go according to plan?
If things went according to how I wanted it to go, I would have been a Division 1 college football player that then graduated, had 2 years, 2 to 3 years in the NFL, and then
Right?
came out of that being in real estate or something. I don't know. So
Really?
yeah.
Okay.
So yes, you're right. Life is funny that way. Life is pretty, tricky that way. But to get back to what my daughter had asked me, I told her it wasn't until she was born that then something like just it switched, it flipped. Like I went from being not necessarily upset, just I wasn't happy, right? But then when she was born, that's when everything kind of flipped for me. And dude, I enjoy being a dad, man. Like it's pretty awesome, it's pretty fantastic. There's no handbook for this stuff. And like I said, the fact that I was the daughter of a girl, that was another, to me that was a headache, because I'm like, I don't do feelings all too well, right? And King's association with feelings are girls have feelings. Like how do I manage that?
Right.
you know
Right.
um but I try to provide a place that my daughter knows that she can come and talk to me about anything. So when she asked me that question, you know I didn't want to sugarcoat anything. Like, I wanted to let her know how I felt, so that
Mhm.
she knows that I'm being real with her, so that when
Right.
she gets older, she knows that she could come to me about things and be real with me, so that I can try and guide her.
Right. Absolutely. What you want to develop is that trust. You want her to come up to you the first time she experiences something with, because we all did it back in high school. We all smoked, or did something, and you want to be able to have that relationship with your kid where they come up to you and tell you, "Hey, Dad, I tried this today," and then you can, instead of getting upset, then you kind of talk to them and make sure they go down the right path, right? Um, but funny enough, so my parents and I have had a good relationship, but I never felt like I could come up to them and talk to them, right? When I look at my daughter, I work so hard to make sure that I have that with her. But in working so hard, I realize that it's not simple. So then again, looking in retrospect, I'm like, dude, I was a dick to my parents. Like, I should have,
Ooh.
I should have I should have not been the kid that I was, with them, and looking at my daughter thinking like, I hope she doesn't turn half as bad as I did, like that would be trouble. I mean, I joined the army, that was a choice that I made. I tell people all the time, my mother's tears and my dad's disownment was engraved in my enlistment papers.
Hmm.
um nobody agreed with it, but I was so headstrong. I'm like, I'm doing this, I want to shoot guns, and shoot guns I did.
Was your time in the army before Izzy, or during or after?
So it was right before I got injured. I had two screws in my back and was medically discharged. I was actually offered to reclassify, and I was like, no, yeah, if I can't do infantry, I'm not going to be in. And I talked to my company commander, because he was like, would like you to stay, and I was like, thank you, appreciate it, but if I can get out, I'm about to have a daughter, and I don't want my daughter to know this part of my life. And I kept it very
Mm.
hidden. I kept it very hidden for her for a very long time. So it was shortly, maybe like 3 or 4 months after being discharged, that my daughter was born. So I was discharged back in 2008, and my daughter was born in January of 2009. And it was just transitioning from one thing to another. It was wild, dude. Like you said, it's there's no handbook to this. you know
Mhm.
so it's very important that you have a good support system.
Uh, do you speak more than one language?
I do.
Does your daughter speak more than one language?
Nah. Nah. We really tried, but I don't think we tried hard enough, because my mom always told me, she needs to learn Spanish. She's gonna learn English anyways, dude. She's in America. and she, I had her knowing the ABCs in Spanish and English when she was 1, but that's it, dude. That's as far as that. When she'll understand it, but she won't speak it. She'll respond in English. And it's like, come on, dude, like this is your heritage. You're Latina, like, but nah, she doesn't speak anything but English. So
All right. Hey, man. So the title of this is One and Done. And the reason why, one thing that me and you both share is that we both have one biological child and we have both had a procedure to ensure that that kind of stays that way.
oh yeah.
And we're talking about a vasectomy. What was your driving reason for getting one?
Ooh, okay. So there were many different driving reasons behind this. So all right. So the obvious one was, uh, I was thinking about my kid and thinking to myself, well, you know what? I don't want to bring another kid into this world and have that kid possibly go through the same thing that my daughter is going through. That was the first thought. Like I don't see myself in a relationship, right? And if I do get in one, like I don't want to have a kid and have this happen again. So that was, and that's from being hurt from the situation.
Yeah.
And the next reason was I'm 36. Let's say I meet someone, 3 years later, or 2 years later, you move in together. A year later, you move in together. 3 years after that, you get married, and then 2 years into the marriage, like you said, that alarm starts going off, and at that point, I'll be like 41. Not having kids at 41, dude. It's not that.
Dude,
I know American people do that, but Latin American people, we have them. I mean, my mom had kids when she was like 17, 18, dude. Like we popping early, Get that shit out the way. But it's cool because like I'll be able to sit down with my daughter and like share a beer on her 21st birthday and I'll be the cool dad. But yeah, no, that's I'm not gonna have a kid at 42 or 43, dude, and be 60 when the kids graduate in high school. Hell no.
yeah, yeah. Like that's something that I did know as well. Like in saying that I wanted to wait until I was at least 30, there was like a window for me that it would have had to been like 30 to 34, 35. In that 5 year window, that's when any, kids would happen. If it didn't happen after that, I am not going to be the 50-year-old person going to high school grad. My mom is doing that right now. I bless her because it's not gonna be me. You know,
You
my sister and my daughter
love you
are
guys, by the way, if you guys are watching.
are about the same age, and yeah, hi mom. Don't punch me in the back of the head next time that you see me. But I don't know how you did it. Um, what what is it that worries you, man? So just earlier today, all right, two different stories, but I'm gonna talk about one story and then grab your thoughts and then talk about the other story. I watched this. There was like surveillance, right, of a kid that was waiting at the bus stop. You saw this car drive, come off the frame while this little girl, I think she was 11 or 12, was waiting at the bus stop, and then this car comes back. This guy gets out of his car, tries to run and snatch her. You see her kind of fight him off a little bit or whatnot, and then he gives up and then runs into, back into his car and drives off. They eventually capture this guy, right?
Mhm.
And thank goodness that all of this was captured. But yo, stuff like that scares me, man.
Oh, absolutely, dude. I mean, you don't want anything happening to your child, but that, oh my God, I don't know how many times I've thought about that. If something were to happen to my kid, there's going to be a side of me that some people don't want to see. You know what I mean? Like, I will hunt someone down. You know what I mean? It's just, that's my baby girl. Like, no, no one's going to hurt her. At least not in that sense. Later on in life, if she has like messed up relationships with men, well, that's a different story. But as far as as far as as far as that, taking care of her now that she's young, yeah, dude, that's no parent would ever want that.
hmm Hey Vargas, thanks for joining the stream and checking out the stream. The second instance, there was, I think this happened in Maryland. A 15-year-old and his brother, who I think was 12 or 13, was walking, and there was a car chase separate from what was taking place, and this guy, I guess, gets into an accident. He starts running. The cops are chasing him, and another the suspect and this 15-year-old boy, similar clothes, I guess, similar build, cross paths, and the deputy thought that this guy was the suspect, and uh, the kid ended up catching a couple of shots, man, and lost his life. Just a simple story of wrong place, wrong time, wrong circumstance. That
Absolutely. That's really sad, dude. That's really sad.
Bro, I don't know how it was with you growing up in your country prior to coming here, but I recall we used to be able to go out and just as long as you got in, man, before the street lights came on, you could venture with your family, your cousins, people from the neighborhood, and it was relatively safe. Like if my daughter wants to go down the street or something, like I'm either going with her or it's going to be her plus two other people
Right.
because it's things that I didn't have to think that I would have to worry about as a father. And I'm trying to recall if life was different then versus now, or if it's just the awareness because of social media and things that makes me want to be extra vigilant. What do you think about that?
So, I mean, growing up as a child, obviously played out in the street, and there was nothing else to that. Play with the neighborhood kids or, my older brothers. Moving to the United States, though, and in New York, in that environment, you couldn't really play outside. You couldn't really do anything outside. It's the city. We were living in Flushing, New York.
Hey,
Uh,
yeah, I've been to Flushing. I know what Flushing's at.
yeah.
A lot of
And
Asians.
a lot, yep. There's like a Chinese restaurant like in every corner. But my parents were like, "There's not enough. We this is not sustainable to raise kids. Let's move down to Maryland to the suburbs," and they did, which was safe enough. I mean, I was 16, staying out until like 1 o'clock in the morning doing shenanigans. Um, but there's really not much you can do except advise your children and say, "Hey, listen, dude, need you home by this time, right?"
Mhm.
And there are those situations. I read that story about the kid, and it's just like that sucks. That really sucks. Like I almost and I almost want to question the police and say, what are the rules of engagement? Like, was the weapon really necessary, or could you have used a different method? And I know the story said that they had to use it, but while killing one person, which was there was two people that were in the chase. I think that's the one that you're talking about, right?
Mhm.
And then killing the kid in the process. Like it's just got to be a better way to approach these situations, right? So it's scary. It's really scary, and I've had on the same topic. I've had the conversation with many friends where I'm like, dude, I'm scared for my daughter. She is Latina. She's a woman, and she's growing up in a world where both of those, play her down, right? Like she's gonna have to be extra strong and extra brave, and it's gonna be tough for her growing up, in this country. So it's I can't really answer that with just one,
That's fine.
one answer. But like I said, talking to your kids and telling them, hey, dude, like be home by this time, and having that trusting relationship with them, you know.
Uh, what what is something that specific for you? What's the thing that worries you? Like, what's the thing that keeps you up as far as like being a dad that really makes you worried? That like you would want your kid to know.
One thing that worries me and keeps me up, probably my daughter thinking that I wasn't a good enough father. That keeps me up,
Mm,
and it's not all the time, but it is, I lay down and I think about, I envision my daughter as an adult, and I say to myself, like, would she be proud of me being her father?
Hmm.
Or would she not be proud of me being her father? What are the things that I can do to position myself so that I can make her proud, right? So that's one of the things that really, really worry me. She's a good kid. She's got a good head on her shoulders. She's really pretty. Like she's gonna be okay. But as far as, because of the breakup, because of the type of relationship that we have, there's that insecurity, and it's an insecurity of whether or not I'm gonna make the cut, in her eyes, because I value that a lot,
Same here.
So that's probably the one thing that does keep me up, and I think about it constantly. And whenever I think about her, I pick up the phone, I call her, and I'm like, "Hey, babe, just call and say I love you. Just don't forget, I'm your dad, and I love you, and I'm here for you." And she gets like, she gets annoyed. I'll call her multiple times throughout the day. I mean, I'm pretty sure her mom gets annoyed too. But I want to be that dad. I want to be, I'd rather call you all the time and you be annoyed about it than not, right? So
Yeah, yeah, they do same here. Because my daughter lives 10 minutes down the road, right? So it's not like she lives that far. And having technology enables us to still stay in contact. We can FaceTime each other and things like that. And during either my last live stream or the one prior to that where I had a chats with dad, I talked about how she started to call me more. Like I'm not the one calling her and reaching out to her.
mhm.
And I struggled with if I wanted to say something about that to her or just let things lie as they lie. But man, like recently, whenever she gets done with school, she'll just call me and say, "Hey, Dad, how's your day?" That
does
right
she
there
have,
means a lot.
does she have her own phone?
Yes, yep. She's had her own phone since she was, I think, 9, and she's about to be 14 now.
So I just recently, as of Christmas of 2020, I convinced my ex to get Isabel an iPod so
Mm,
that I could text her
yeah.
and not have to call her mom, because her mom's very traditional. She's told me, Isabel, I didn't have a phone until I was 18. Isabel won't need one until she's 18. And like I said, very traditional, right? And to me,
Mm,
I'm like, dude, times are changing. Like
mm,
we have these tools. We can use them to communicate. And if you're really afraid of, and I think this is her fear, I'm not sure, but it's exposing her to other things, and kind of help, just trying to keep her, in a bubble. Um, and I told her, like, even if getting a phone exposes her to things, like we have the tools, within the software to be able to limit what she looks at, or who she calls, or you'll be able to track her wherever she's at, and call her whenever you need to. But still have not been able to get across. I'm hoping that this year we make that change. If you're looking, please get her a phone.
Hey man, you just brought up something that is a story that happened that kind of highlights that technology. So while it's great because I can communicate with her, and when me and my ex-wife got divorced, like there's a whole communications plan type thing that you can have in there, and I think it's great because it leaves things spelled out to where if there's any disagreement, you can say, "Hey, this is what the divorce decree stated. If you
Yeah,
want this change, take it to court." Um, but uh, so we have it that we can it's our kid, right? We didn't want the division there, so instead of having to contact the parent to then talk to the kid, to me that's stupid. That's stupid.
yeah,
Just being able to text and call my daughter and vice versa, that was important. But with the technology also comes the responsibility of it because I remember being in high school when we just found out about the internet and being able to go and search whatever as a teenage boy, I was searching it all, right?
Oh, oh yeah, dude. Oh,
I am pretty sure the amount of viruses and things that my computer had, back in the day when you had dial up and it took a long time to get online. And, my parents, they didn't know about, child safety stuff. So, like, I was the technology person in the house. So I was able to do whatever and hide or whatever, and they wouldn't find out about it. As far as I knew, but we had an instance, me and my ex-wife with our daughter, where she was having some, I wouldn't call them inappropriate conversations, but they were conversations that we would have liked to had been aware of. And
yeah,
then she thought she was slick with where she was having them at, and then even went as far as to say, that mom's not going to find out. Well, her mom should be a FBI agent detective, because the way she sleuths is part of the reason why I'm not married today. So the fact that my daughter doesn't know that she can't hide things in her phone from her mom, uh, daughter, if you ever see this show, just know that your mom is like Ace Ventura. Things don't, get hid from her.
right,
Um, but I get your kid's mom being worried about that, but at the same time, like, we're in the technology age,
right,
so for me, and luckily my kid's mom also saw that as well. It was important to allow her to have that and manage it, so that, when she does have access to it, like later, or, as she gets older, she's not behind her peers, that, there's people coding at 13,
right,
writing applications and things like that. And using technology is a skill, even if it's just, using, okay, a smartphone. There's people that don't have smartphones yet. And you're like, how do you function in life without a
right.
smartphone?
Yeah, no, I fully agree with you. I mean, we so here's the story. We had a situation where Isabel got in trouble. I think she was in fifth grade because her teacher said that she pulled up a web page that said penis, or she was Google searching penises or something like that, right? And I'm thinking, I'm talking to my ex. My ex is living, and I'm like, I don't think Isabel did this. So like, I'd sit down and I'm like, Isabel, I want you to be 100% honest. You're not in trouble, but I want you to tell me, what happened. And she tells me that she went up to another kid, and the kid had Googled it, and she was like, oh, what's that? And they started looking at the webpage and then got caught by the teacher, which then brings me to the next point where you can put your kid in a bubble as much as you want, but once they start walking out into this world, and it starts what, at kindergarten, elementary, right? There's not that much control you have. So what do you have? Right?
Mhm.
Like if my daughter's walking into a classroom in fifth grade and watching a kid Google dick pics, or I don't know what it was, you know what I mean? Um, if I can't do, what can I do? Right? When it happens, then you have that conversation with them and say, hey, this isn't right. You're not old enough for that. If you have any questions about those subjects, you can come to mom and dad. But there's nothing that you can do to prevent any of that thing, any of that stuff. I mean, you were in school too when you were 7, 8, and kids are curious, dude. We were curious beings by nature. So the fact that Isabel's mom believes that she doesn't that she can, because it's almost like she's trying to protect her from everything that's out there. It's like that's a great approach, but why don't we give her the tools to manage or to be able to get her through the different challenges out there? I think that's better.
Hey man, do you know if your daughter is going through sex ed in her current grade? So my daughter's in 8th grade, and I think that they had a module of it in 7th grade, but they do a little bit more in 8th grade. Are they teaching that type of stuff in the grade that your daughter's in?
Oh
That's
yeah, I
wild.
mean,
Dude, that's
we,
wild to me. I don't think we get that in middle school.
we had a conversation. That it wasn't even a conversation. It was like, "Hey, Izzy, are you guys talking about sex ed in school?" And she was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Okay, cool." Right on. I'm glad you're doing that, girl. It's awkward. It was awkward. Oh man, it was almost as awkward as this one. This is right before COVID. Actually, no, yeah, right before COVID. We're driving back from school, and she asked me, "Dad, how old were you when you started getting periods?"
When you started getting periods?
Dude, I'm in the car, like, why me? Why me? Oh, like, why couldn't you be with your mom and like, ask her this, like, why me? Why me? And so, yeah, instead of assuming, right? I'm, I kind of look back and I'm like, what do you mean, honey? What do you mean? And she's like, like different periods in school. And I was like, oh God, yeah.
Okay.
It's in
Okay.
elementary school is when I started
Oh,
having periods.
dude, that's a good story. That's really funny.
Dude, I was literally sweating like a hooker in church, man, because I did not know what I was going to say. And yeah, I'm glad I played it off. I was like, what do you mean? So
Speaking of not knowing what to say or do, this past weekend, me and Castle was out together, and I'm asking her if she needs anything, and we had just left a friend's house, and she's like, "Can I need some liners?" And it took me a second to think about what she meant because I'm thinking like liners in the context of you need some like zingers or whatnot, like Dad's got the one liners over here, and she's like, "No, liners," and I'm like, "Oh yeah," and we go to the store and I don't know what kind to get.
right.
And this isn't the first time that I'm going to shop to get them for her. So we're together and I'm trying to, act like, it's not awkward to me, but dudes just don't want to be in that section as the ladies are getting that stuff. We just don't.
Right.
But like I'm portraying, strong, confident, father, and this don't bother me. But I didn't know what to get. So I asked her, who she's 13. I'm like, she should know what she normally gets. And she's like, I don't know. And I'm like, so I FaceTimed her mom
Mm-hmm.
standing in the aisle at CVS, like,
Oh,
what do I
that's
need to
perfect.
get, Castle, because I'm lost.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
And we're having this conversation in the middle of the store, customers around, but I'm trying to, portray confident, but I'm like, let's hurry up, let's do this. And she's like, hey, flip the camera around so I can see, like, show me what's on. I'm like, just tell me what you get so I can leave.
dude, 100%, man. So I would when my daughter first had her period, she was with her mom, right? And her mom handled, she explained everything, and I'm very happy that it happened while she was with her mom. She's more of
Mhm.
an expert than I am, right? But we did have a situation. Isabel came back and we're hanging out. I bought what I thought she needed because I asked her mom what she needs, so I bought what her mom told me. And we're sitting there watching a movie. She gets up to you go to the kitchen, and I can see that the things are not doing its job. Like the pants are dirty, and I'm like, all right, I got to bring this up. And I bring her over. I'm like, Izzy, come here. We got to talk about this. And she gets very embarrassed. And she's like, you got me the wrong ones. And I'm like, all right, well, what do you need me to get? I'll get whatever you want, dude. Here's my credit card. And she's like, I'm not driving. Can't even drive. I'm like, well, tell me what to get, dude. I don't know. Like, I thought I did. And that's not it. And she's going to hate me, Isabel, if you ever watch this. So I called her mom and I'm freaking out, right? Because I have no clue what's going on. Mind you, we're just home, like no one's there. And her mom, bless her, because she was very calm. She was like, dude, here, let me text you a picture of what I get her. This is what you need to get. And fucking, I bolted to the store, dude. I bought like 3 or 4 of those packs and I brought them home and I got some, like just different things like a pillow and just make her comfortable,
Mhm.
and that was the last that I've ever really had to deal with that. up until when you know when she's going through it, and you're like, all right, now uh I got to be gentle with her because she's not feeling herself. And um as a father, your role is to teach him what a man should be like, right? And men can be caring, and men should be caring and respectful when that happened, when the woman goes through that. I know there's a lot of women out there, they're like, don't make excuses for us. And like, no, dude, I've seen my kid, and she's very emotional, and I'm fucking sitting down with her with some tissues and crying it out with her. I'm that kind of dad. But
I'm not. I think my daughter see me cry once.
so
So,
you're the military dad. You're the drill sergeant.
eh, not quite. I'm the mentor type dad, right? And I tend to lead with more logic than I do with um emotion. Like, for example, and so this past weekend we were having a conversation about something, and she leads what I feel and then goes on and, oh, so we were talking about when I'm rich and I'm balling, like how to be a responsible person that's wealthy, right? I'm speaking this into existence. And I asked her like what she would do, and she was like, "Well, I would, help homeless people." So I asked her how. How would you do that, right? And then I let her just kind of talk things out. But she started with saying, "I feel, I feel, I feel." So I said, "All right, Castle, you're saying I feel, and I hear you. I hear how you're talking about your feelings, but feelings don't get shit done." So how can you take what it is that you want to do, which is, help the homeless, but put actions towards that can help that person and maybe other people, not go through a situation that allows them to be homeless,
Right.
right? I'm like, your feelings are valid on the subject, but how you feel about something versus like, I think, I'm like, if you tell somebody, I think that, and give a reason, whether your reasons, technically sound or not, you might have people more apt to be, wanting to help you out versus saying like, I feel. And her response back to me was, well, I like to say I feel because if I'm not like the authoritative, source, and those were her words. She's using big words where I don't say authoritative source. But she's like, if I'm not the authoritative source on the subject, then like I don't want to be wrong. So I say I feel. And I'm like, yes, but by saying I feel, and this is my opinion, and I told her mom that I had this, talk with her. I said, by saying I feel, it's almost as though you take accountability out of what it is that you're talking about. And I find that people don't aren't accountable to, things now. So I just impressed upon her. I told her, I'm like, look, you can talk how you want to talk. Just understand that if you're telling me as a logical thinking guy, I feel, I may not, think that you're going to be accountable for the stuff that you're talking about. And she listened. She didn't fully agree with me, and that's fine. I'm not there to get my kid to see my side.
Right.
I feel as though it's my job to just try and guide her.
Absolutely, dude. I think that's amazing as in its own. Helping a child think logically. I want to say thinking logically is probably a skill nowadays that not a lot of people have. They don't process things properly. They don't analyze things enough. But absolutely, dude. I mean, I do the same thing with my daughter where she has a problem, and I'm like, all right, well, think about it. What do you think? What do you think went wrong, or what do you think the problem is? Or when she when she,
Mm.
when she reads a statement in math, and she just keeps reading it, I'm like, Isabel, pay attention. Like, don't just read it. Like, try to understand what they're trying to tell you, and then understand the problem, and then figure out the solution. Like, create yourself a process by which you can use to develop solutions to problems. And we're talking about math. I'm thinking about life. You know what I mean?
There you go.
But and kids are so innocent. They do base themselves in their feelings a lot, and so you cannot completely disregard that, right? Because you're kids are gonna they're already a person. You're just sort of facilitating the development, right? And that sounds weird as a parent, but like they're gonna do what they're gonna do. They're gonna know what they're gonna know, and you're just there to kind of, no, you're gonna make a slight left here if that's where you want to go. If that's where you're trying to get to, while at the same time providing them with that logical thinking, right? Because that's crucial. I've met a lot of people older and my age who do not possess that, and it's just like, how did you get anywhere in life, bro? It's like,
Uh huh.
but that's yeah, that's amazing. It's important. They do teach that in school at times, but the more as a parent, and I want to start using the term father is just parent, right? Like you're a leader. The more you do that with your child, the better your child is off, right? And
That's what I think.
yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely.
Cool. Well, hey, Dave, check it. This has been a quick hour, and I've made it a mission statement, if you will, to keep my chats with dads to an hour. Partly because I like the game right before I go to bed. So, first of all, man, thanks for coming by last minute. It was very impromptu to bring you on board.
Yeah.
So I was glad that you were able to accommodate coming on very last minute, man, and just kind of having this conversation, man. One of the things that I like to start off saying at the beginning is that part of the reason why I like to do this is I like to chop it up and just have these conversations, because this is the stuff that we would talk about at trivia, right? Or
Hmm.
whenever we're out during the next time that we're going to plan this Top Golf event, or the
Oh,
limousine ride to Fogo de Chao, or maybe even at the strip club, but that's
hey.
neither here nor there. Well, hey man, hang out real quick. Don't leave. I'm about to close out the show, and then we will chop it up for a bit. So
Good.
stay right there. All right. That was my Wednesday chats with dad with Dave. Dave, I just met this year, like I said earlier, through a mutual friend, and dude's funny, dude's hilarious. We have some very similar views on life and raising our daughters, and I was glad that he was willing to come on and chop it up. He's also watched, I think, all of my past live streams as well, and he's came on and commented. So I appreciate him both watching the show and coming on and chatting with everybody, or with me, about life as a dad. So I'll be back next week with Jack, who was supposed to be on this week. Ranger Jack, I knew was going to have technical issues. Um, and we weren't able to get things worked out, but we should be able to get it worked out next week. And I see you guys back here next Wednesday.